The mill grinds in its sleep. Even in the dead of winter, even when the river is choked with ice and flows like cold syrup, the old water wheel creaks and groans. It hasn't turned in weeks. Not since frost locked the sluice gate shut and snow buried the mill race under 3 feet of white silence. Yet still it speaks. Still it dreams of work. And Elias listens. He is 41, though his beard and bent spine make him look older. He lives alone in the mill house, a squat stone building clinging to the riverbank. The villagers say he talks to the mill more than 2 people. They aren't wrong. People stopped talking to him long ago. Elias was not always alone. Once he had a wife, Maud, with a laugh that could shake frost from the rafters. She died 6 winters past, not of fever, but of a quiet sorrow that settled in her lungs and never left. And before her there was a boy, just 3 years old, who coughed one night and didn't wake the next. Elias buried them both beneath the yew tree and never planted flowers. What blooms in January? Now it is only Elias and the mill, at least, does not ask him why he stays. Tonight the wind howls through the cracks in the stone walls. Elias sits by his small, careful fire, wrapped in a threadbare cloak. He burns only brushwood now. The last of his oak logs went to Martha's cottage last week, when her roof collapsed under snow and her children couldn't stop shivering. He feels the lack of it. Outside, the moon casts a thin silver sheen over the snow, turning the world into a ghost of itself. No footprints mar the path to his door. No one comes to the mill in deep winter. They fear what he carries. Not plague, though, that shadow looms closer every day, but grief and guilt. They believe some men are better left to their solitude. But tonight, something changes. A sound pierces the wind, not an owl's cry, not the ice cracking on the river. A whimper, human, close. Elias stiffens. He knows that sound. It's the sound his boy made the night before he died. He rises slowly, joints protesting like rusted hinges. He unbars the door. The cold punches him in the chest, but he steps out. There, huddled against the mill's western wall, half buried in snow, is a child, a girl, no older than 5, barefoot. Her shift is soaked through, her lips blue. She's shaking not just from cold, but from terror. "Who are you?" Elias asks, his voice rough from disuse. She looks up, her eyes wide and dark. "You're the miller," she whispers. He kneels. "And you are?" "Lily, from the croft near the bend. That's 2 miles east. In this weather, alone." "Where's your mother?" The girl's face crumples. "The cough took her 3 nights ago. Father said he'd go to the priest. But he didn't come back." Her breath hitches. "I heard wolves." Elias says nothing. He lifts her so light, like a sack of grain picked clean, and carries her inside. The warmth of the cottage wraps around them. He lays her by the fire, peels off the frozen shift, and wraps her in his spare wool blanket, the one Maud wove the year before she died. With trembling hands, he boils water, sweetens it with the last of his honey, and presses the cup to her lips. "Drink." She does, slowly. Her eyes never leave his face. "You live alone," she says, not as a question. "Yes. Don't you get lonely?" Elias stares into the fire. Loneliness is safer than loss. She doesn't understand. Of course she doesn't. She's still young enough to believe the world makes sense. He feeds her thin barley gruel. When she's done, she curls up on the hearthstone and falls asleep, almost at once. Elias watches her breathe. In, out, alive. He should take her to the village tomorrow, to Father Aldrich, to anyone but him. He is not a father. Not anymore. And the mill is no place for a child, damp, dark, full of grinding gears and sharp memories. But the wind rises again, and snow begins to fall in thick, silent sheets. By morning, the path will be gone. The world will shrink to this room, this fire, this child breathing beside him. He sighs and adds another log to the flames. Dawn arrives with an ache of cold deeper than bone. Lily wakes and sees Elias at the grindstone, sharpening a knife. "You stayed," she says. "I had nowhere else to go." He replies. She watches him work. "Can I help?" He almost says no. But then he remembers his boy begging to carry the flour sacks, his small hands trembling with pride. "Fetch me that bucket," he says, nodding to the corner. And so begins their day. They melt snow for water. They check the ice on the millrace still frozen solid. Lily sweeps the floor with a broom of bundled reeds, humming a tune that sounds like a lullaby Maud used to sing. At midday, Elias pulls out the salted mutton, a gift he'd never opened. He cuts 2 thin slices. Lily eats hers slowly, savoring each bite. "Why do you live here?" she asks. "Because the mill must be kept. If it falls, the village starves when the grain comes in. But it's broken now. It's waiting," he says. "Like everything in winter." She considers this. "Is that why you're waiting, too?" He doesn't answer. That night, the fever comes. Not Lily's, his. It starts as a chill, then a cough that tears through his chest. He tries to hide it, but Lily hears. She wakes, terrified. "Are you dying?" "No," he rasps. "Just tired." She stares at him, then does something astonishing. She crawls into the straw pallet beside him, not for warmth, but to watch. "To guard, I won't let you go, like Mama," she whispers. In that moment, something in Elias cracks open. He reaches for her hand. It's small, warm, alive. "Tell me a story," she says. So he does. Not of heroes, but of the river, how it flows, even when frozen, how it remembers every rain, every drought. "The river doesn't stop," he says. "It just waits for the thaw." She falls asleep with her head on his arm. He lies awake, burning, listening to the mill groan. And for the first time in years, he prays. Not to God, to Maud, to his boy. "Take care of her if I can't." But the fever breaks by morning. The sun rises, weak but unmistakable. Lily is gone when he wakes. Panic seizes him. He stumbles outside, calling her name. Then he sees her. She's at the edge of the frozen river, breaking ice with a stone. Behind her, a narrow channel of dark water leads back toward the mill race. "I cleared the sluice," she says, breathless. The wheel might turn now. He stares. This child of loss and loneliness has done in one morning what he hadn't dared attempt in weeks. Not out of strength, but out of hope. He kneels beside her. "Why? Because you kept me warm," she says, simply. "Now I keep the mill warm." Tears blur his vision. He pulls her into his arms, not as a miller, not as a widower, but as someone who has remembered how to care. That afternoon, the thaw begins. Water trickles into the mill race. The wheel groans, shifts, then turns, gathering strength. The great stones inside the mill house begin to grind, not grain, but the silence that has held Elias captive for years. Word spreads. Villagers come, not to barter, but to witness the impossible. The mill turning in deep winter, a child's laughter echoing off the stones. Father Aldrich arrives that evening. She says she has no kin. He tells Elias. The father vanished. Elias looks at Lily, who is stirring a pot of pottage. "I'll keep her," he says. The priest nods. "She's been through fire." "No," Elias replies. "She's been through winter, and she brought spring with her." Weeks pass, the snow recedes, the crocuses push through the mud. Elias teaches Lily how to measure grain, how to oil the gears. She teaches him how to sing again. One evening, by the fire, She asks, "What was your boy's name?" "Thomas. Do you think he'd like me?" Ilya smiles, a real smile, slow and soft, like melting ice. "He'd have fought you for the last egg." She laughs, and the sound fills the mill house like light. Outside, the river flows. The wheel turns, and in a world trembling on the edge of plague and famine, two broken souls have built a hearth from the wreckage of winter. They are not safe. No one is, not in 1347, but they are warm. And for now, that is enough. Thanks for watching. If this story moved you, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more tales of hope and humanity. See you next time.